Prof, can you please come and welcome our speaker for today? Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Are we up? Are we ready to get some knowledge? I hope so. Nobody is sleeping. It gives me great pleasure to stand here today. And for those of you who are not here yesterday, or you didn't even watch the proceedings of what happened yesterday, we learned a lot, and you missed a lot if you didn't. Because the center that's being created is both climate change and entrepreneurship. Many people don't see the line between the two. They say, no. That's business, this is a concept. There is a lot of linkage between climate and business, in this case, entrepreneurship. By embracing climate change, you find there are lots of opportunities. For example, in the field of energy, we are now talking of moving away from fossil fuels to sustainable energy. That's wind, that is solar power, and many other forms of non-fossil fuel power. I'm sure you've already seen a lot of persons embarking already on the business of solar power panel fixing into house.
War have resulted to inflation and high food prices. The calamities and the stressors will continue, and climate change will only worsen it. So are we going to be on this trajectory of only complaining and blaming government and blaming everybody except ourselves? And what has that blaming for over 63 years bring to the continent? Nothing. Nothing. So I'm here to say enough. And to tell you the missing link why we are still discussing these issues today. The missing link that has caused Africa all these opportunities is not making human capital, you and me, our skills, recognizing the value that we bring, our uniqueness, that we are the solutions to the challenges we face, that there is no one else, regardless. If I as an individual cannot offer a solution to turn a challenge, if my role is only to complain and blame anybody, I am wasting opportunities. That is why we are where we are today. As simple as that. As simple as that. Because human capital is the engine of transformational development. Your skills and talents, leveraging on your passion, to be able to know that your value, what you offer is what is important, not where you come from. What you offer is what is important, not where you come from. I come from the western part of Cameroon, but I'm standing here and I'm speaking to you where did I mention Cameroon up to this point. So you should be able to project value regardless of where you come from, a region or from a poor. It doesn't matter. Your background is not what determines your usefulness. What determines your usefulness is what you offer in the solution space to turn a challenge into an opportunity. And therefore, the skills and talents and energies and passions and aptitudes that we represent are actually valued 15 times the value of natural capital and 4 times the value of produced capital. So when people are not put at the center, and when I'm talking to people, I'm talking to you, the young people. And I use the word young people more than the youth today because youth is not anybody's name. And you're going to graduate out of it very soon. And then where you sit will determine what you did in your youth. So if you're not useful now, when you are 44 or 50, you will not be useful then. Usefulness starts now. Usefulness starts now. So if you are not useful, spending time blaming left and right, of course you have right to complain, but you also have right to bring solutions to the spaces in which you are complaining. As I said, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to speak truth. Africa has since independence propped up its raw materials, its material world of natural resources over its sovereign capital. Such that today, anytime you talk about Africa, Africa is known more for the quality of its tea. Africa is known more for the quality of its coffee. Africa is known more for the quality of its cocoa. Africa is known more for the beauty of the landscape. Yes, we have beautiful landscape, beaches and wildlife, the glitter of the gold and diamonds. Yes, we do. But we are not known for our talent. We are not known for our skills. We are not known for our brilliance and creativity. Africans are brilliant and creative. But we are not known for that because we don't project creativity. We project problems. That should stop. We don't project creativity. We don't project our passions and energy in the solution space. We don't project our resilience and selflessness of our people. We project problems. That's where we're missing. That's where we're missing. And that must end. You will not win in this global competitive space. Under a changing climate, with crops reducing, with precipitation rainfall going to reduce, especially in Botswana here, projected to reduce by 5%. If temperatures reach 1.5 degrees, Botswana will warm 2.2 degrees. And they will see an avalanche of droughts and heat waves. What are you going to do? You have to start looking for solutions, and that's why we're here today to discuss this. The world is under a red alert. The barrage of the war in Ukraine to the lingering effects of COVID-19 have shown that things can be so fragile, and you can lose something anytime. But what this tells us is that the elephant in the room, climate change, which I've mentioned, is only going to make things worse. Today, across Africa and the globe, humanity and our shared environment face three crises known as existential crisis or triple planetary crisis. Biodiversity loss, we see it every day. Pollution and waste caused by our unsustainable production and consumption. These challenges have significantly impacted African economies, and these impacts are swept through all, regardless of age. Whether you're young or old, you face the impact. Whether we're talking about biodiversity loss, or we're talking about land degradation that is costing Africa $120 million yearly, or we're talking about pollution, where on pollution and waste, Africa faces over $400 billion in losses every year, be it from indoor pollution that is killing over 700,000 Africans each and every year, to outdoor pollution that is causing illness, costing the continent over 90 billion a year. An African proverb reminds us that in times of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build dams. And it's a stark reminder that wise people never remain passive. We should be wise people. The young people should be wise people. As Professor Mazonde said, the young generation today is called Generation Z. Yeah, that's good. I'm also a young person. We like to leapfrog without being part of the process. You could not be able to get what you want without doing what is needed. No matter how you rise to the top, if you are not substantive and valuable, you will lose it at the same time. You must build value. Struggle a little bit. Short-term pain for long-term gain is what sustains reality. I'm not standing talking the way I'm talking here just because I lose up. I build value. I understand the issues. I work hard. I endure short-term pain to understand that you can only build value by sacrificing and being dedicated in the process. Why I'm telling you this today is that there are no shortcuts to the top of the palm tree. There are no shortcuts to the top of the palm tree. You must endure short-term pain for long-term gain. You must sacrifice and innovatively volunteer yourself to learn. The reason I am discussing this is because if I only focus to discuss the science of climate change without touching on these very specific aspects, we will not be able to solve and seize the inherent entrepreneurial opportunities in the changing climate. Because you need to educate, you need time, you need to be dedicated, you need to be passionate. This is what I'm trying to unleash in each and every one of you here today. In the most simplistic way possible, without necessarily bringing in a lot of jargon. This is a stark reminder, as I've said, that we cannot be passive when we are discussing these issues and make the same mistakes that generations before us made. Dedicating ourselves to enterprise solutions to the environmental and climate change challenges is what we can do to be able to build a ladder that can take us to the top. And that is how we can be able to change the narrative and start turning challenges into opportunities. You, the present generation, and especially those who are listening online and those who are here physically, you exist as a defining moment where your decisions to break from the past and unlock your potential for solutions will define Africa's destiny going forward. So I am here today, like I started by saying that I'm here today to call you to wisdom. I'm here today to tell you that you don't need a special invitation to come to the solution space. You do not need, government has done it best, especially here in Botswana. You have a climate change policy. You have all the policies you need. You have your nationally determined contribution. We aim to cut emissions by 15%, focusing on energy, waste, and agriculture. You are supposed to read that, and I'm sure that I will be surprised if anybody have read the Botswana climate policy and the Botswana nationally determined contribution. If you've done it, put your hand up, please. I will clap for you. Not yet. When you leave here today, go and read and see what is in it for me. There is nowhere in the world where government does everything for everybody. Government role is to create an enabling environment, and it is the citizens that usher themselves to act. That's why the climate action premium and inquire come and try to understand how do I take this forward. Avail yourself to the solution space. That's what I am here to tell you, that you need no special invitation. You need no special prioritization or consideration to be able to become a solution provider. Regardless of your age, whether you are young or old, if you are young, you will still get old. If you are old and you are young and need something, you will be more useful. So what that means is that we, regardless of age, are required to report for duty urgently. And what is this duty? Become a solution provider. Seize opportunities. Be dedicated and passionate. This is what we must do to be able to turn environmental and climate change challenges into opportunities. And for us to do this, we need reimagination. Reimagination of solutions is what is required of you and me. Because if we do not reimagine solutions, then we cannot be able to tap into the opportunities that are disguised as challenges. And this reimagination needs to be done in the following ways, and take note of each and every one of them. We need to reimagine our food systems. We are in a continent today, 65% of our cultivated arable land, 257 million people, over 257 million people go to bed hungry. Yet, we produce food that get wasted, and the continent loses 48 billion US dollars. And then import food over 25 billion US dollars. That's importing unemployment and exporting employment. And then we say Africa is poor. Poor in what? Poor in what? We are poor in the fact that we do not recognize that we need to build the skills, the requisite skills to turn our challenges into opportunity. To harvest losses, to reduce that doesn't need rocket science. You don't need to go to the moon to come back to do that. And I'm going to explain how can be able to do that. This reimagination in food systems must prioritize one fundamental aspect in 2 words: value addition. Without value addition, you cannot develop. If you take Botswana, where we are today, Botswana is famous for its livestock industry, and up to 80% of your agricultural GDP is drawn from livestock. And most cattle are owned by smallholders. We must reimagine the business model, especially under a changing climate. But climate action offers solutions in 2 areas. One is circularity, and the other is sustainable value addition. For example, prioritizing waste recovery to biofertilizer is a very simple thing you can read and learn even on the internet. How do you use your livestock waste to turn it into biogas and to biofertilizer? How do you use agricultural waste to turn it into briquettes? These are simple things you can learn, and we guide youth across the continent, and they're doing this. Willing youth living here today, going to YouTube, just looking at how do I turn livestock waste into biogas. Within a week or 3, you will be doing it yourself, and that's your enterprise. This is not rocket science. This is what young people are doing across the continent. But you need yourself first to come to the solution space, and nobody will do it for you. Only you can be able to usher yourself into the solution space. These realities, if you prioritize waste recovery to biofertilizer in the livestock sector, this can turn Botswana into a hub of biofertilizer production in Africa, because this is a sector that is growing at 5.9% globally. and we'll tap into billions of dollars. Simple. The other one is in clean energy power value addition. Learn how to make simple solar dryers very easy. Go online and read. It's very easy to do that. And the center here is going to also offer practically how you can be able to do that. So that at least the smallholders can be able to add value to their livestock, be it processed meats or processing hides and skins into different items of apparel. Delivering these solutions stands to unlock enterprise opportunities that you, the young people, must urgently tap into through enterprising action. That takes me to the second point, which is we must reimagine our energy systems. We hear stories. One of the biggest worst, I call it worst, and I say it without any fear of contradiction. The worst thing that ever happened to the young people of Africa today is that we embrace narratives and we don't question narratives. There is profound power in a narrative. And if you cannot be able to formulate your own narrative, you cannot be able to make progress. When you are told you are poor, then you say, yes, I am poor. No. What is poverty? What is poverty in the first place? Poverty is not an indictment on anybody. I grew up in a poor home. So what? But we are told that being poor is not punishment. You can get out of poverty if you focus and you are dedicated and create a pathway, you will get out of it. But because we are told that we are poor and the solution to out of poverty has only to come from elsewhere, we then bury ourselves in sand, bury our heads in sand, and then wait for others to come and take us out of it. That's a false narrative, and I'm here to debunk that. The false narrative on energy, where we have 620 million Africans who are energy impoverished, the narrative is that we can be able to transform rural areas using gas. No, it's a lie. Let me tell you this. Most of Africa is still in an informal setting. Let me repeat that again, because the narrative you guys pick is that Africa is a formal setting. Africa is not a formal setting. The quarter of this continent is still informal. I understand it. I come from an informal sector. I grew up in a village in the northwestern part of Cameroon. I get this. I get it. I don't need anybody to tell me. I get it. And we intellectual dishonesty. I can see people leaving the room. Truth is bitter sometimes, but it needs to be told, which is good. But most of Africa is still in an informal setting. The informality of Africa cannot be ignored as we discuss energy aspects. Why do I say so? Decentralized energy systems such as solar mini-grids are built as the cheapest way to electrify rural Africa. If you get gas, right, to a mother in a community who cannot afford to buy a gas stove. No, please, let's be realistic, right? I mean, but we don't want a narrative, oh no, we need gas to get our mothers in community so that, okay, fine, how do we get the gas, cooking gas? They don't have the money. And we embrace it without questioning our contextual reality. What works in the United States may not necessarily work in rural Botswana. But context is different. And those who understand context are those who come from the specific areas. It doesn't mean that you cannot learn from Asia or Europe or North America, but you need to contextualize the knowledge to fit the reality, the contextual reality of people. But this is the truth. If you don't understand it, you cannot make progress in anything you pick up, to be very honest. I discuss climate change from a realistic perspective. That's my area of expertise. I'm an environmental expert. But discussing it just the way it is discussed at the global stage will sound excellent, but it will not change anything. Another discussion in every community in Africa, we have cooperatives. The names are different. In West Africa, they call it Chamas. In West Africa, Central Africa, where I come from, they call it Yangis. I believe in Botswana, there must be a name where in every community, people come together, they contribute money, they either put it. I mean, it's not formal, but it's a social structure in which people come together. They may not contribute money, it may be food, they may be supporting one another. I grew up, my mother used to, so it's not government, it's you and me. So if we fail in this, then we are failing Africa. If we fail in this, we are failing our mothers. If we fail in this, we are failing our brothers and sisters in informal sectors. And so we should never ever blame anyone for Africa's challenges because we know how to bring solutions to them. It's as simple as that, brothers and sisters, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This reality that I'm speaking here today, if you look at your own country, here have the Renewable Energy Fund subsidy policy aimed at subsidizing renewable energy solutions. And I know that most of you don't know about this. Check about it and try to find out what does the Renewable Energy Fund subsidy policy for Botswana aims to do. And on top of this, your NDC prioritization provides you an opportunity. But the core element is ensuring that the decentralization of solar solutions to power value-added enterprises, especially in the agro sector, can be tapped. And here we're talking about livestock farmers. If you use the cooperative spirit I'm talking about and leverage a community to come together so that you can start to look how do you then decentralize a shared solar infrastructure for value addition, be it solar power coolers and fridges or solar power meat processors. This will serve the community and you will make money and the community will put food on the table and everybody will be happy. People will have a mindset change. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm here. I'm telling you what you need to know, not what you want to know. Because quite so long we have been told what we want to hear, not what we need to hear. And that takes me to the third point, which is we must be able to imagine finance. The aspects that I've mentioned today, the informal sector engages over 80% of the population across the entire African continent, because the fact that you are Botswana youth doesn't mean that you need to only think objectively informed financial incentives such as subsidies to acquire better solar solutions. The potential for enterprises in the informal sector can tap $200 billion US, which is a lending gap that remains untapped today because of perceived high risk. As young people, your solutions will need to tap into this lucrative market. Don't ignore them and think that it's only people in the city who can be able to get solutions from you. No. Africa is an informal setting, and that informality provides opportunities for climate action solutions to be developed by you. Being members of these local cooperatives who've tried this in Uganda using a cooperative called Peosa, and young people are able to decentralize solutions through this structured way. And that takes me to the last point on this aspect of how we can be able to, last but not the least, drive transformational climate solutions, leveraging on your ability. And that point is diversification. Regardless of what you study, it doesn't matter. My first degree was in physics. I was trained to be a teacher. Physics and education. My master's was in environmental change, and my PhD was on climate change and policy. Why am I saying this? What you study doesn't matter. It's how you use it. Because we're so fixated in these silos that, I study economics, I study law, I cannot be able to think out of the box and solve a problem in food security. Who told you that? You have so many opportunities. You need to diversify, you need to learn. Because what we know is that the past 2 years have been unprecedented in recent years as far as global economic shocks are concerned. If there is any lesson we must pick from this, is that it should be, while emergency may be on a global scale, they do not affect everyone the same. That's true. And this reality has taught us that it is our responsibility to be prepared. And preparation needs diversification. It needs you learning different skills. And this diversification is what I call the biggest security of the system. The most important enabler of diversification is towards skills retooling. Learn a skill to turn agricultural waste into briquettes. It's not a thing only for boys or girls. It's for each and every one of us. Whether you're a professor, it doesn't matter. Learn a new skill in something you don't know. That keeps your brain fresh. That is as simple as learn how to speak. Don't say I'm nervous. No, we were all nervous. But we developed the resilience after so many failures to speak the way we do today. It's a skill. Learn something different. That's all what I can say there. Through an incubation approach that we've developed, and we are driving this across the continent, just doing what I'm doing here with you people, call it innovative volunteerism, engaging young people to understand that you have what it takes to address challenges, to turn your passions into profits. That you can be able to go online now, instead of using your phone to tweet, to blame government and back everybody, use those bundles to go to YouTube and listen how to turn agricultural waste into fuel briquettes, how to turn livestock waste into biogas, and start to read and to listen. Connect with people online around the solution space. That's where your market is. That's where you make and break yourself. But we are not told these stories. We want 5 minutes of fame online. Just because we think we are abusing somebody, you get 5 minutes of fame. What value does that bring? But you can use that space to connect with like-minded people that will be able to give you ideas, and you learn experiences, and that will help your diversification process. Please, we see young people who are guided, developing fertilizer from agricultural waste across the continent, and they're making up to 500% profit from all these environmental challenges that they're telling. And the last part is, people are not moved with big ideas. That's what I've learned in my entire career. The first one is, you must become passionate. I usually say that if you throw money on everyone, have a seat, young lady. Enjoy it. This is very, very important. And if you miss this year, you will not have that opportunity again. And don't listen to the flow of this. It's almost coming to an end. If you throw money on someone who is not passionate, you'll lose that money. I keep saying this. If everybody 2 trillion and those people are not passionate, they will eat that money, will finish, and they will still be poor. Passion is the biggest currency that you can have. Without passion, give ideas, nothing will work. Give money, nothing will work. This is what I have seen. But give an idea to a passionate person. He turns that idea into value and make billions. So without getting our young people to be passionate, to see value in themselves, we are failing in our transformational sojourn. And that's all we need. That's why I'm here. To tell you what you need to hear. So that at least tomorrow you can also inspire other young people, and then they can inspire. That's what Africa needs today. So I always say Africa, the biggest gap in Africa is a passion gap. I'm not talking about passion that fruit in a supermarket that you buy to drink. I'm talking that internal flame inside you that you sit and say, no, I have to do this. What gets you up? Doing it not just because you want to make immediate money, but because you know that you're going to solve a problem. And in the course of doing that, you will make money. The second aspect you need is to be able to tap into those solutions in food systems, energy systems, financial systems. You need to be fearless, but not careless. Write that down. Be fearless, but don't be careless. And I'll explain what that means. When I say be fearless, but don't be careless, this means that you need to seize opportunities and become an adamant optimist with a dose of what I call stubborn opportunism. You see a challenge, you start to think solutions. That's fearlessness. You don't understand something, you try to find people who understand it to get ideas. That's fearlessness, but not carelessness in abusing people, in complaining about government and everybody. That's carelessness. You make yourself a trouble asset when you complain, and nobody will invest on an asset that is a trouble one. When you offer solutions, you become not just valuable, but you will attract. Value attract. Complaints and blame game repel. That takes me to the third point: you need to master yourself. You know, there's this attitude, and I don't understand why. Anyway, today we're debunking it, so it's a good thing. One of the essential aspects that each and every one of us needs to realize, manage is yourself. If you cannot manage yourself, because you got up in the morning, you made the deliberate decision to come here. I think nobody was beaten to come here. You could have made a decision not to come. Those who are listening online could have still made a decision not to log in. That means you are the master of your own self. If you want to learn something and you say, "I'll learn it," you don't need advice from a friend or anybody. You say, "Okay, there's nothing wrong to get opinion," but at the end of the day, you make the decision yourself. If you miss that, you'll be missing opportunities. And so I decided to tell you this because most of the time you will face circumstances that tend to reinforce negative attributes of self-doubt, whether from our society, from our communities, or even from our family. If you haven't faced it, you will face it. There will be times where you have that self-doubt. Am I really able to do it? You will face that. If you haven't faced it, be prepared. Start to build a resilient mindset. We will face these circumstances that will put you down and make you doubt your abilities. That you will do. But while that will come and these challenges will come and you'll be faced with them, what is most important is how you will respond to them. And to respond to them, you need to cultivate, never to allow doubt to overshadow your vision. What you are purposeful and passionate about is what you must always focus on. Anything that derails you from that, it's not important. And the only person who can cheer you up is yourself. So be your own cheerleader. And that takes me to this soft aspect, which is when we felt, and this is as a result of our upbringing and the cultural context of the continent, was that when we were growing up, well, I use myself as an example, but as an opportunity to learn, because when you fail, you gain experience, and that experience will help you to do better. So build this mindset and you will overcome any difficulty that you will ever face. And that takes me to the last point, which is each and every one of us must become a leader. You know, the definition of leadership is always made as if it's someone else who is supposed to be a leader. Leadership is personal responsibility. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead anybody. Leadership is passion. Leadership is inspiration. You must be able to inspire other people. And the only way to inspire people is to show something that they can do, and to show that you must have dedicated effort to learn and be something you are passionate about. So when they discuss leadership, there are a lot of intrinsic elements that are usually discarded, and then we just open our minds and listen. Since we're very good in grabbing narratives without questioning, then we listen, and then they tell you that even when things are going the other way, you should not even think. That's not great. So we must become values-based leaders and know that one does not need a position or a title to lead. You do not need a position or a title to lead. Leadership is not about positions alone. Leadership is being selfless. It's about taking responsibility to do right and become an example. And as you take these actions of personal leadership, don't bother about naysayers. This is another thing that we were not taught, right? That when they complain about you, oh, you start to collapse. Oh, they were gossiping. Is it your business? When people talk about you, it means you are very important. You should be clapping yourself. It means you are very important. Because then they're using their energy to talk about you. That means you are the epitome of excellence, regardless. They're spending time to talk about you. That means you are a star. So what is the issue? What is the issue? Don't bother about naysayers. And don't be afraid of criticism. Always remember that the strongest winds constantly confront the tallest trees. Yes. So what is the issue? When you are doing something, don't be worried about that. Listen. Get to understand what is happening, but do not be scared about that. Instead, continue doing what is right, and I'll use the analogy of football players. 11 on one side, 11 on another side, in a stadium of about 60,000 people, with those who are watching the football game abusing the players on the field. But what do the players do? They focus on playing the football. And at the end of the day, who wins the trophy? The players. So don't bother about those who complain. Focus on this kind of attitude of players, and because the one who wants to lift rocks must start by lifting stones today. So start building value today, because that's what is important. This African proverb is the marching orders that I'm giving you guys today. To become purposeful, passionate solution providers as you tap into the climate action solutions that are at your doorsteps, and the Center Climate Change and Entrepreneurship Advice will provide you with that opportunity, regardless of what you're studying. And if everything I have said, if you were to forget anything, always remember this one. Be your best version.
Give him a round of applause again. We learned a lot today, and
before that, for the online viewers, you are supposed to type your question and then you go to address it.
Good afternoon. My name is Bora Oyeboke. Thank you very much, sir, for your talk. It was very, very inspiring and informative. My question is, and you touched on it a little bit, but I'd like more. What kind of value do we need to gain as young people? So if you give us more soft skills, you mentioned public speaking, for instance. If you could give us more practical skills that we need to learn even where we are now, especially the ones that especially the ones that naturally came in previous generations by reason of by reason of how they experience education. For instance, now we don't read as much.
Internet, it's videos, it's TikTok. For example, I write, but then sometimes I'm discouraged from writing because I'm like, who's going to read it? It's like people want to watch videos and clips. So what soft skills do we need to learn as young people? That's the first question. The second one was what you touched on when you're about to close about the resilient mindset. I find a lot of us young people are bogged down with anxiety and so many things. So how do we build that resilience that seems to come naturally with our parents that help them to also push forward in life and become solution providers? Thank you.
He'll answer that. So anyone else who has another question, he'll answer that after that. Okay, so I guess anyone else who has a question?
Hello guys. Hello. Can we smile a bit and try to loosen up? Okay? Okay, my name is Khofale Matswiri. I'm not sure whether I should say it's a question or what. But, okay, I'm from Kalahari. Is anyone from Kalahari here? Anyone from Kalahari? Okay, now what is happening in Kalahari, we're experiencing load shedding because we take electricity from South Africa, ESCOM. And I'm like, can't we have solar panel to be used in most areas of Botswana? I don't know how we should go about that. So I believe it's possible, right? And then the other thing was what? Okay, and when we look in rural areas, we have like, are they called indigenous food or what? These wild foods that we have. Where I'm from, we have mahupu. Do you know mahupu? And I'm like, can't we empower women from that side for a mahupu on our package? So we're like, yesterday, doctor was talking about cassava. Is it cassava? So I was like, I'm going to try cassava, and I'm already into it. Dr. Chicho is helping me. I'm going to plant it from here. So can't we try the things that we are not used to and see how it goes? And the last thing, now I studied IT, and I'm like, I'm trying to bring IT and climate change to see if they can merge and come with something like climate technology and stuff. So I'm here to learn, and I'm so blessed to be in this place. Thank you.
That was a very
Lala. I go by the name Duo Mpologa. Thank you, Dr. Munang, for your insightful presentation, sharing it with us. However, I'm going to differ with you on some of the things that you mentioned. This goes to an issue of the youth are out there and not somewhat using their skills or knowledge regarding, climate change, entrepreneurship. They really are. We have a pool in our country of youth that are really trying. Quite a number of them Even those that you mentioned when you spoke to, using livestock dung into energy and stuff. They are there in our country. The issue is, or the issue that I want to give you an assignment on, to go and look into, is on leadership. Leadership. And obviously, when I mention leadership on this one, it goes to speak to, I don't know if I to say politics. Now and then, in all platforms, as youth, we are told that we are government. No, we are not. Theoretically, we are part of the government system. Practically, we are not. We all know here in this room, as the youth, they are always there, our members of parliament. In parliament, they take or they make the final decisions to these policies, to these rules and regulations. That is why sometimes it feels like, as the youth, we are not doing anything. I'm saying this because grants are there. You look at how funding is given out. It's so hard for youth to apply for such. The dynamics of how you get to apply are so hard. So, in this case, it means you are not going to be eligible to be applying for funds that are somewhat climate change related to start up your business. I'm also going to take you to the issue of mental health illness. Day in
to a day, the overall thing which has brought us together, the launch of this very premier center of climate change and enterprise, if I may rephrase it and put it my way. And also to remind you once again that after the successful launch yesterday, now we go into another very, very critical point. Critical in this manner. Dr. Munang, the expert in this area of climate change, is very well keeping up with the brain behind the center, Professor Mosha, as we've heard, and the feet that are running with the center in the presence, in the person of Dr. Chicho. Both of them are here to accompany you. Oh yes, the handshake is excellent for all three. You see, isn't it? We have the intellectual capital from Professor Mosha, then the expertise from Dr. Munang, and then you know a little bit.
Let me start by acknowledging Dr. Munang for a wonderful presentation today and yesterday. Really, you have opened our minds with regard to climate change. I want to thank you personally because you have opened my mind. I want to do something so as to change the situation. But I wasn't aware that today we have got many forms of poverty. You talked about climate poverty, energy poverty. Actually, yesterday I was forced to research on energy poverty, and I was listening to the Minister of Mineral, blah, 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 in South Africa, mentioning that we are in trouble. And the CEO of MTN in South Africa, I was shocked when he mentioned that because of energy crisis in South Africa, the company is burning 400,000 liters of diesel per month to generate power for their boosters. Then I said, wow, what is happening? Really, we are damaging our environment. So I understand all the suggestions that you have given us as youth, but you mentioned today that when you do value, you are trapped. And when there are complaints, there is rebellion. But I want to talk on behalf of the youth, that when they try to participate or to diversify, in most cases, like the previous presenter has said, the politicians, when they hear that a young man from Halahat has done this development, they come and grab the idea, and the man or the young man remain poverty. Can you shed light on intellectual property, on such kind of innovation and creativity? Thank you.
So that was the reason why we needed this conversation, so that we can be able to clarify some of the aspects that have come up from Mr. Hadio. Please, your name. I didn't get your name. What's your name? The last speaker. Who? Dr. Dakas. So can we call you Dakas? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think your question and that of Mr. Madio is related. Is that correct? So, one of the things that I think we need to understand here today is, first of all, I didn't grow up, and I'll use that to answer all your questions. I grew up in a poor family, went to school without shoes. Most people do that, it's not a crime. Went so many days without food because of crop failure, that's okay. I dropped out of school sometimes because my parents could not pay my fee, that's okay. So what I came to understand was that, and I use a word, because I will get to your questions and I will give my perspective there, my perspective from my life experiences. When I speak, I use my life experience, and I've written a book around this that will be shared free to you guys after this, and you should be able to read it. There is no justification for poverty anywhere on earth. But there needs to be realistic discussions of why we have poverty in the first place and how we can solve it. I know that this is music to you guys, and I'm saying this because there are what I call hardened young people who will not change regardless of what we say. And there are those who will change when they get different perspectives. That's society. You cannot change everybody. And to go to the question of Madeo, which I think is the truth of it all, because what he said there is what he's representing millions of youth who think that way. So I'm not necessarily answering you. I'm answering the bulk of the millions of youth. I understand. Your question is that we, young people, are doing enough. You first of all started using the word youth. When I started, I said I don't want to use the word youth, I want to use young people, because youth is not anybody's name, it's an age group. I will graduate out of it. You only use the word enough. That's already failure. If we were doing enough, we would not have the challenges we have today. And if young people are doing enough, what about you and me who are educated? What message are we passing? We're actually fueling the space with negativity, not with solutions to help those young people to lift off from where they are. What do I mean by this? What I have said is that the young people in my own community and in my own village, most of them have not gone to school. If I've been privileged to go to school and I come and tell them that politicians are not doing anything for them without me providing solutions to help them, I'm fueling and making the situation worse, and it's only going to get worse. And that's what we who are educated, PhDs, are good at. We provide conduit for blaming those young people without providing solutions. But this is how I answer your question. The young people out there need guidance, that's number one. Guidance to build on what they are doing. in such a way that they can be able to put money in their pockets and put on the table. And that needs resources. Resources not only in terms of money, but also resources on where they can market what they are doing. And for that to happen, you need to play a role by being their role model to guide them through the process. If they are doing converting agricultural waste into briquettes, can you yourself, using the position in which you are in, regardless of whether you are having a government position or you have self-created your own position, to guide them and to try to find markets for their goods? That's called selflessness. We don't have it in the continent. That's one. The second aspect still in that question is government doing enough? And are we as citizens doing enough? The answer is we are not doing enough. So what do you need to do? How many people are in government versus those who are not in government? I believe no country on earth have up to 50% of the population in government. The bulk of the population in the case of African continent are non-state actors, and the biggest constituency of those non-state actors are young people. What does it mean? We need to start looking at what is there to start with. If you do not use what you have, you cannot get what you don't have. Can you engage your elected members of parliament and present what you are already doing and showcase the gap? If it is briquettes you are making or bags, as you said, well, we are trying to do this, but we don't have resources to bring it to scale. Can you engage them and start also engaging other actors so that at least they can address that gap building on what you are doing? So if the young people are doing that, how have you come together to put them into groups in a structured way? Because as individuals, you will not succeed. You must put people within a structure so that you argue from a common voice. Are the youth groups only bringing issues, or they're also bringing solutions and coalescing those who are already acting so that you can have a critical mass of solutions to problems and also a critical mass to showcase gaps? That is not functioning. I've crisscrossed across the country. I work with youth in rural areas and I understand. I use my experience growing up also in rural areas and I get these issues. So the answer to your question is enough is not happening, and that is why we have the conversation. And for enough to happen, non-state actors like you and me need to play our role as we build, change, and identify the gaps and use the data that can help them forceful incentives to close those spaces. Nothing will happen through talking alone. And spaces like this, we must not only have conversations in formal spaces like this. Get down to communities and understand the reality of the young people and guide them and inspire them so that they can build a resilient mindset. I spend a lot of time on that because there is a misconception and a wrong narrative that have been perfected by those of us who are educated, that sometimes we want to project only negativity without also looking at the good things that are happening so we can close the gaps and make progress. And I debunk that, and I stand anywhere, say this without any fear of contradiction. I'm a product of poverty, and what I learned in the process is that it gave me resilience. There's nothing, poverty is not static. And when we spoke, most of them work hard because we are not aligning to what they wanted to hear. So to Dr. Tidimani, right? Yes. Thank you so much. Please, you said it all, and all I can say is you summarized everything, and you said something which is very, very important. You have what it takes to change, turn challenges into opportunities. And at the same time, when the going gets tough, work on your mind. So how does government work on somebody's mind? It's you, the individual, to work on your mind. And if you refuse, then you perish. It's your decision. Even this guidance we give here, you're not supposed to take what I say. I'm a product of it. I'm living it. I can only play my role by also helping to pass the information to the willing. It's not by force. Okay? You play a part. Then to, is it Hafa, right? Sorry about.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Flora Savoy. I am from an environmental magazine called Defense Planet Protector. Go on your Facebook and look for the magazine. And I just want to make, I think, 2 comments. And I really want to commend Richard Munang for his presentation, and I interacted with him some years ago. I don't know whether he still remembers, but the point I'm trying to make that I want to make this morning to all of you young people is look outside the box. You know, there are no jobs. The point that he was making is that you guys must take this as a huge opportunity to do something for yourselves to turn this country around. Look at what is happening outside. The scorching heat, the heat that is killing us. We can take that and turn it to something. You can do so much with that. The lady was just talking about Khalkhadi. In Khalkhadi, you have a lot of cattle, and they produce a lot of cow dung. What has he been talking about? You know, turning the cow dung into what? Into energy. So I am just here to say to you, yes, politics are there, they'll continue to be there, we'll continue having funding leaders, but let's not, let's not concentrate on that. Let's change our mindset.
I have a question. My name is Toby, and my question is, with the COVID era, when COVID happened and the Western countries immediately took action, while African countries were more like the rich people, it's a rich people problem. Agriculture, mainly in the rural areas, how do we instill passion to those particular people, because they are mainly also a driving force to making climate change? Because if we leave them behind and say, oh, it's only on the young people who can make a change, and the people in the rural areas will not have education, also mainly ask, we need funding, and how do we even start? So that's my question. My question is, how do we instill proper passion and education to these people who are mainly responsible and also part of the agricultural sector, and things such as beef, rearing cows, and agriculture and plantation as well. Thank you.
I'm taking our scout there, Dikaganyo. I represent a company called Untitled Creations. We deal with content creation and wildlife films. So I just wanted to pass a quick question. I see Eddie's looking at me with the MCs. Dr. Moa, you mentioned something on cattle, livestock, contributing around the 80% of the agri GDP in Botswana. And recently there were research that cattle, like cow dung, they produce methane, which is like a gas, and they say the gas is quite corrosive more than CO2s in terms of the ozone layer and causing all climate change related issues. So I wanted to understand, being an economy that Botswana is, that we, agriculture is kind of like a pivotal aspect of our GDPs. How do we strike a balance between people moving into agriculture, livestock, creating specifically cattle, producing them at the mass scale and creating good economic scales, and then balancing that with the whole climate change issues of avoiding the production of the methane gas from cow dung, which is affecting the ozone layer? How do we strike a balance there? Thanks.
Thank you so much. My name is Samuel Lebengwa. I think most of us here were aware that when we grow up, we used to eat those food. And from my own experience, I would like to share with you guys. Now I am the true example of someone who was raised by honey. I don't know what you call it, Mopaniwen. Yeah. I come from the north. I guess most of us who come from the north, they know that honey, there is a diamond there in Pani. And I once went to a center. I was so surprised to see that they are selling the package, just a small package, for 80 rand, of which in Botswana we sell coffee for 10 pula. I was like, what? There's not even half of a coffee mug. But then you guys are selling it. They buy it from Botswana, they take it to South Africa, they package it into snacks, and they sell it. What I normally do is that honey has 2 seasons. It's either December or April. You either harvest one of the 2 seasons. So most of the time, you know that youth, as now is I got a festival tomorrow. So we are all about going to festive and drinking and doing all this kind of stuff that we do during festival. Unfortunately, me, I'll just be in the bush. So I go to the bush. And one thing about Pani, guys, is that Pani is the only thing that you can buy through barter system. You know barter system, whereby you don't even use money. You take these clothes, as I'm wearing this, I'll just be taking some of them to the bush, we exchange, I get the Pani, I give them the clothes, or I buy food, this food from the server and all those kind of things, I collect them, take it to the bush, we exchange, I get the Pani, then I go and sell Pani in South Africa. And it's a hell lot of money, guys. So
much with CO2 emissions, aerosols, and particulate matter. And recently I have been involved in understanding the variability of carbon dioxide in Africa, and more especially looking at emissions from biomass burning. And I hear we are talking about dung, you know, when we are producing energy from dung. The effects of that, when we do that, it produces emissions, you know, greenhouse emissions. And if there's one thing that I want to talk about that I have noticed in Botswana is there is a lot of intentional burning of grass, especially before the rainy season. And one of the things that I was thinking of that I'm planning to work on is to look onto carbon pricing. You know, because if we have policies that are in place, such as carbon pricing, we wouldn't have most of the prevalent wildfires that are happening. So I think that is the comment that I wanted to pass through.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is this working? Yeah, but you can hear me, right? I have a voice. It's part of resilience. You can speak even without a microphone. So the lady who asked the question, it's the biggest challenge. I have argued this. The Botswana Youth Fund, 9 million or so. Is it 9 billion or 9 million? I'll check the figures. But you have a youth fund in Botswana that is not even tapped into. What the young people are supposed to start saying is that let our youth fund actions that are climate actions and forcefully start to showcase that this is what you are doing and tap into that youth fund. Your youth fund is here, and that youth fund, how many of you are tapping into it to do climate action? You can only start with what you have. Anytime an African takes the stage, yes, I have listened to it in so many spaces. The question is always about we don't have funds. It's a very shameful thing. I have never heard, and thank you very much, I didn't hear your name, the guy who talked about Munang, thank you very much. I have never heard an African argue that we are liberating our local cooperatives with the little we have, and this is what we've done, and this is the difference, and if we were to get funds, this is the way we use that system to do. I have never heard. He talked about trade by barter. How many of us here have made that the center stage? Because why I'm saying like this, what I know money to build climate resilience. So instead of speaking truth,
You would like to hear lies. I will not be the one to tell you lies. You will never have enough money to build climate resilience. But what you can do is to leverage the little you have within your own country. You have the renewable energy fund subsidy. How many of you have gone there to tap it? You don't go to tap something before an idea. You bring an idea and showcase how you started a little and form a group. You easily operate through a structure than individual. And I'm saying this not just here because that's what I've seen across. We love to work alone. That will not take us anywhere. So the point I'm making is tap the available resources, be innovative and creative, and try to start with what you have, and that will bring you opportunities. Then the next question is, first of all, the role of a unit is to generate knowledge. Unit produces the best science that inform environmental state of affairs in the entire world, the state of environment. And when it comes to climate change, unit produces what is called emissions gap report, an adaptation gap report that shows what do we need to do and where are we heading and what is the current latest science. That's knowledge to inform and to inspire people to take action. It convenes member states, like recently Mike brought all the countries together to be able to foster a legal agreement so that at least we can be able to have a way to address plastic pollution that creates opportunity and at the same time reduce plastic from getting to. That's our role. But that information is for you to take and then see the opportunities that you can, and that's how I was trying to explain that. If there is no action, then you will lose. Others will benefit from it elsewhere. That's true. The guy of the Mupani one, excellent. Alex, good job. Good job. You're proving that it's doable and you are doing it. Did anybody ask you to do that? Were you at one point to devise, to develop interest to start trying to see how you can tap into the Mapani worm, and that's the biggest opportunity? No! You develop passion and you went ahead to. Did government come and tell you to do it? No. But when you speak truth here, you didn't get applause the way I expected. And that is the reality across the continent. I'm just speaking up and telling those who are willing, get young people who are willing in communities to get into that. And that takes me to the point where, before I go to the meeting, that was a technical question, so that's not a big issue. I wanted to finish the mindset issues questions first. The one where, yes, I think the lady, what's your name? Toby. Toby. Okay, good, excellent. I think your question, and yes, your question touched a little bit on the question that here in Botswana you have the petrol levy and the plastic levy. Those funds are there. Come up with ideas and try to find out how you can be able to assess that to start small. You cannot, if you don't use what you have, you will never get what you don't have. You can only get what you don't have by using what you have. It's going to be hard. You prepare and build resilience on that. You apply something, you will not get it. Then on your question, let me tell you the truth. We who are educated are the biggest problem to the youth in the rural areas. During COVID, like you rightly said, that was a beautiful question, and thank you very much for that. It was rural areas that were feeding those in urban cities. If they were not passionate, how would they have been producing the food? These are very passionate people who grew up. They never, not going to school doesn't mean they have experience. They practice climate-smart agriculture, nature-based solutions. They don't even use chemicalized fertilizer. They use cow dung and chicken droppings to grow their food. Their food is nutritious, it's not chemicalized. Yet they don't get applause. We tell them that they are poor, but they are not poor. We bring the narrative from the cities to the communities and destroy the mindset of our youth. Yes, they have a gap. Our role is to come back and say, look, you are a carpenter. I'm going to help you start to learn how to do a solar dryer so that you can use your carpenter skills and fabricate a solar dryer. That's our role. Unless we do that and we go and tell them, you are so poor because you're coming from the city and because you studied in Nottingham like I did. You tell them they're so poor because they're not brought abroad to study. What do we expect? We're fanning the flames of destruction. So that was a very good question. They are passionate. My mother in the village who has never gone to school fed us. She is passionate, but she has gaps. And those gaps can be closed if we bring solutions. And that's why I said, for those who are privileged to understand this, because how many youths can be in this room today from the country? Not a lot. Many don't have the privilege to be here. They don't even have cell phones. So what I've advocated in the continent is that we need what I call a chain reaction of solutions. That a few people who get the solution should take it to the broader youth in communities that don't have access to this in a positive way. I mentor millions of youth, and my role is what? Show them what they can do to fill their gaps. That's all what they need. Don't give them a narrative to dissuade them, because negative narratives drains. Positive narrative inspires. And in the continent, we focus on negative narrative rather than on positive narratives. Thank you very much for that question. Very important question. Now let's get to the technical question. Cowley, right? Cowley, yeah, okay. It's not from... no, that's fine. I mean, African names are so beautiful. That's another strength we have, right? Our names are beautifully coined. So this is the point. Good question, practical question, but political, and at the same time an opportunity for Africa and Botswana. Political in what sense? Africa is a negligible emitter. So the argument is, oh, we'll do everything to emit. No, that's not the point. You are losing an opportunity. The carbon, yes, releases methane. But what we are saying is that carbon should be turned to biogas and fertilizer, rather than allowing it just to waste there and release methane. Why don't you start using that carbon to turn to biogas and inspire and train young people so that they can create enterprises and businesses there, and give incentives so that they can be able to access biodigesters? That's the narrative. A big, huge business. But that's not the narrative on the mainstream. So it's a climate change challenge, but it's a big business opportunity. Who should tap into the young people? And that's why the center here, Climate Change and Entrepreneurship Center, all of you should enroll into it. You don't need to be a climate scientist to enroll to it, and learn how that to tap into those opportunities. Because if you have livestock that constitute over 80% of your agricultural GDP, and it's currently being impacted by climate change, part of the diversification is to expand the value chain, and the value chain will be in using the carbon to be able to turn to biogas and fertilizer. And you should think beyond Botswana and think that can even be exported to the entire continent. That's business. And that's the kind of narrative we should take center stage and drive without any fear of contradiction. Nobody will do it, but that's for you guys to see. So, brilliant question. And thanks, I mean, that was a compliment, right? You were complimenting you were complimenting. But the unfortunate thing that we're never told is that anytime you give up, somebody else is taking your space. Let me repeat it again. Anytime you give up, somebody else is taking your space. Because the relevancy of yourself can only come when you become valuable and occupy your space. Until you do that, we will continue this conversation next time the same way. Thank you.
And we don't get enough of this anywhere else. And you guys who are in here are very, very fortunate and blessed to have people like this allowing you to express yourselves. Dr. Munang is pouring into your cup. He's not gaining here from anything from being here today. It was his way of saying, I want to inspire you guys to do more. So what should happen is you also should inspire others the way you've been inspired today. I'd like to thank the leadership of the institution, and I'd like to thank Dr. Chicho. Oh, the alarm is really going off. Dr. Chicho for being the glue that connects us all, because without our action, we wouldn't have had the event yesterday, and we wouldn't have had what happened here today. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Entrepreneurship. By Sago University.
By Sago University.
Awesome. Youth for Climate Action.
Youth for Climate Action.
We are the solutions.
We are the solutions.
And we will change our narrative.
And we will change our narrative.
We are proudly Africans.
We are proudly Africans.
And we are the solution.
And we are the solution.
For climate change.
For climate change.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Those of you who are watching, we actually are, if you can see over there, the name is Somareland Tikologo Community Bottle Recycling. So this is a recycling area, and you're going to hear more. And your name?
My name is Boniface Olubayo. I'm the business manager of the NGO. It's an NGO.
Excellent.
So
we actually here with the team from Bayesago University. This is the youth group, and please can you tell us who you are? One person introduce the team, and then I come to the staff quickly.
We are Bayesago University Conserve to Sustain.
So what's the name?
Our name.
The name Environmental
Bayesago University Conserve to Sustain.
Conserve to Sustain.
Yes.
Excellent. And this is the team from there. Don't bother about names. Yes, Dr. Chicho.
Okay, this is Bayesago University staff, the team which forms the Center for Climate Change and Entrepreneurship.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm with you. My name is Lucia. Dr. Bola Tumioyegoke. I'm
Excellent.
part of the team.
My name is Tero. I'm part of the team.
And the youth are part of the team. Yes. Amazing. So let's go.
No.
What do you so somebody is watching from Togo, from Tanzania, from Cameroon, from Kenya. What would you explain to that person that a bottle, they have bottles at home, and they think that these bottles don't have any use? So seeing these bottles here, what would you say? So what do you do here? Just explain it as before we go in.
So what we do here is a collection drop-off center. So people have bags, bottles, maybe bags, independent sports, individuals. We tell them you can bring your bottles here. We have another drop-off center at our office. I'll show you. So what they do is, instead of dumping these bottles at the landfill, we advise them we have a place where you can go and dump. Then what we do ourselves is to craft.
So do you pay them?
No, those who come here, we don't pay them.
Okay.
But those who want us to buy from them, we do with community members.
Oh, great.
So from community members, we buy. From affluent, middle, high income, they drop. So we have two sessions of, we have a drop-off center and we have a buyback center.
Okay.
So for the lower, middle.
So somebody who is just listening is, those who want to dispose their bottles, this is the place.
Yes.
Those who want to sell, you guys have a system that happens. So they dispose it here, and then we tell us.
So what we do,
we get to this.
We have two sides. We have a manual crushing side. This is this one. And the automated crushing side. However, most of the bags of bottles in South Africa, most of these bottles are taken to South Africa for recycling into new bottles.
So you crush it here?
We crush it here. To this side, this is a recommended side, so they have to go and clean it, and then we crush it further. So you can't crush it up to this level. What happens now, what we do is, when it goes to this level, we mix it with aggregate, and we make construction blocks. So we encapsulate
construction blocks from
this glass.
From glass.
This is actually aggregate.
Do you have an example here of the? Okay, that's fine. So, if somebody is seeing a bottle, right? Yeah. Somebody might not even know what it's made of. What is it made of?
Bottle is made up of 3 ingredients. First of all, there is flaspa itself, and then the other chemical which you have to add, including calcium, including some aspect of nitrogen. So all that contained to make a new bottle. So if you look at the potash, when they manufacture salt, the flaspa is what makes is the virgin material for making bottles. And that flaspa is just river sand, almost like this.
Right.
So that's what we say. Now, why we are recycling is that if you do this, you are saving almost 60% energy in terms of manufacturing, transportation, not manufacturing, in terms of mining, transportation, and manufacturing at site. Because if you have starting from virgin material, the heating temperatures are high compared with heating with this. If you look at the carbon footprint, when you recycle, the costs are less, and the carbon footprint is also lower. So that's
the environment is safe.
It's safe. So that's why you see we have a lot of glass here that we are promoting recycling. So what we tell people is that there are opportunities in 2 ways. You can be a collector and
make
money from selling, or you can go to another level where you start manufacturing. We have small scale users of bottles. I'll show you one or two if you go to the office. However, their consumption is not commensurate to the amount of bottles coming out. Furthermore, these bottles are only coming from a radius of 50 kilometers within Gaborone. Not countrywide, just 50 kilometers.
Okay, maybe because this is getting very interesting, we go down again because it looks like we also have some excellent. So, for somebody who's just watching, so we have special machines that cause this.
For here it's manual. What I was saying is the companies which buy in South Africa, they promote manual crushing because it employs more people. So at this site, we have been having 20 youths who are based here.
So this is also providing employment.
That's the thing. Because our machine, we only employ 6.
Correct.
And they can crush the same quantity which 20 people crush here. So to spread up employment, we prefer to do manual crushing, but we give them all the protected coatings to make sure that they work in a certified environment.
So if you were to be asked one question today, if government was to incentivize more you to get into crushing bottles and recycling bottles, what would you say 3 things that you would say that should be put to incentivize more you to get in job employment?
First, as you can see, this material requires vast space. We have just entered this space from the railway. Previously, we used to transport this glass to South Africa through the railway line, which is just behind here. So we craft load to the railway line and we go. However, the railway to South Africa stopped, so we had to now use road. Now, the first thing, what I was just saying is you need to have space where you can store your waste material. If you have to do rental on a commercial rate, you won't be able to run the recycling business.
Yeah, but you know, government don't, okay, I don't know how it works here, but if government is to give land, it has to lease.
Yes.
So, but if it is
subsidized,
yes, so it should subsidize.
Subsidize
Excellent.
the lease.
The lease.
Yes.
Number 2?
Number 2, the government should also be able to provide infrastructure in terms of financial support.
Okay.
Because for you to do this business, first of all, there's some paperwork that needs to be done in terms of getting the licenses to operate, and also
so the processes should be faster.
Yes, should be faster.
Okay.
And then in terms of collection, this is a very labor and cost intensive activity. So what we say is, if you go to, let's say, Munang district, which is Molekole, they have glass, but it's taken to landfill. So what we say is, when the council of the Molekole or Michudi have bottles, instead of letting them go to the landfill, they should be able to see how do we use our transport to take it to this place. And lastly, what I say is, we sometimes go as far as 50 kilometers to collect bottles. Now, if you go to the council, Gaborone City Council, we go to collect bottles in Hamudu and bring it here. We are charged almost 2,000 per 6 cubic meter truck, 2.4, to bring it here. From here to South Africa, we are charged, we put them in a post and trailer, which is a Superlink, 30 ton. We pay 7,000 pula. Now, what we argue with the council, which is not yet done, we are still trying to work with the Ministry of Environment, is if I transport my glass from where you're taking waste and bring it here, and you still pay another company, skip hire, to get waste from here to the landfill, you pay them 3,000 per trip. Why then don't you also subsidize us for having carried that waste from that side to our side?
So I'm getting 2 things here. Number 1 is, instead of subsidizing those who carry waste to landfills,
subsidize
and
us.
It ends there without creating jobs, the waste should come here where you are going to create jobs, because youth are going to get employment. And more so what I would say is that environmental activities that involve recycling, those who are running it should actually be given tax breaks.
Yes.
Excellent. Let's continue. This is good, man. Wewe ni uko juu, eh? Uko juu sana. Yes. This is good. This is good. So maybe can you
what you notice is that, why this glass has stayed here for a while is because, you know, when you're looking afresh in March this year, for 2.5 years we are not doing business because of COVID and all of that. But then when you started the business, the buyers also become a little bit stringent with their requirements. Previously, they used to take mixed glass. Now when you just add this to themselves, they decide, okay, we want segregated glass. If you bring us glass, let it be brown, or let it be green, or let it be clear. So for a while, this glass was not able to be spotted.
Yeah.
So it only happened until 2 months ago when we got a contract with another company that decided to be taking the mixed glass. Because for them, they feel if they take brown, it's quite cheaper for them to make brown bottles than it is mixed. Because for you to get the color mixing, to get green, white, to black or brown, it's quite more expensive. So they want to make it cheaper for them because of high cost. So to cut costs, they also affect us.
I want to just come in there because there's, so number one is, so climate is changing, right? You can see the heat, and Botswana is going to be warming up to 2.2 degrees, right? There is a move towards what is called sustainable transport. So sustainable transport, routes constructed, connecting to cities and all those places. But there is still heavy dependence on concrete. And you've mentioned that one of the offshore is that these bottles, though we see them as wares, are actually used to make bricks and maybe pavement tiles. So can you explain? So I'm a minister, somebody is a minister of environment of Botswana, or the minister of environment of Togo, of Kenya, or Cameroon. And he wants to influence policy so that at least bricks can be made out of bottles. How will you explain to that person how this is very important and how this is done?
Now, what you look at there are two things. There is a process was deviating from river sand-based construction. I think the UN, you're almost making it a policy.
Yes, it is.
We will stop making houses and roads. Use the river sand.
Yes, because actually the extraction of sand is costing not just the environment, but it is not a renewable resource. It's going to get finished.
So at the end of the day, also, even if it doesn't get finished, for you to get a table of sand, it takes maybe 100 years.
Correct.
But for you to remove it, it's quite
it's a process, and it's intensive, and at the end of the day, it's destructive.
Very destructive. So if you go to places like Kang is on the other, is it west?
On the, that's to the north.
Kang, Hansi area.
East, northeast of
they don't have a lot of river sand. In those, they don't have a lot of rivers. So you have problem with construction. So our desire was to go and set up a pulverizing business in that site, whereby the glass aggregate becomes the river sand for construction. More so even here as we start to do this, before this company accepted to buy this glass, our next move was to procure a pulverizing machine to convert all this into sand and sell it as river sand construction company. Because people in Gaborone, they get their sand almost 200 kilometers away.
Yeah.
So for us to cut off that distance, we are supposed to crush this one and sell. Not only that, we had another idea also of making...
and you sell it cheaper than even sand?
Yeah, it's cheaper.
That's another excellent cheaper. Hello Minister, if you're listening, this is an opportunity to diversify and create jobs for the youth, and at the same time save the environment. Now the next part before we move is, when you throw this in landfills, if you are explaining to somebody, it just gets wasted, or what destruction does it cause when bottles are thrown in landfills?
Now there are two issues. First of all, bottles in its state, it doesn't break by itself.
Correct.
So it's not just
it's not a biodegradable.
So over 100, 200 years.
However, for us here, what we do is, once we rehabilitate the soil, we take this top, we crush, mix it to a point that it can also be done for landscaping, reflective landscaping. That is not harmful, you can even pick it with your hands. So what you do after we clean up these places, we crush the bottles, the remaining particles mix with the soil, and we take it to the rivers where there is no mining, river sand mining. So that we increase the river sand construction, manufacturing at the same side. So once you have broken this into fine particles, then you take it to the river. It becomes now aggregate, which will become river sand and reaches downstream.
Excellent. So if you are excellent, now that is now the offshot of using bottles disposed to making something big. So, but if they just stay on a landfill, what is the destruction to the environment, if you were to explain to someone?
First of all, it will, in itself, there is the danger of maybe getting injured, injuring yourself. And also, apart from that, if you leave these bottles, they also kind of get contaminated with dirty water. which becomes
dangerous,
hazardous environment to the soil. And this glass, if you can look at it, it retains a lot of water underneath. So it can also start seeping into the soil, and if not well taken care of, it's likely it ends up also into drinking water on the other side.
Another hazardous.
So that's another hazardous problem if it's around a water catchment area.
Actually, what you're doing here, you've just formulated a model that will be taught under the Climate Change and Entrepreneurship Center of Bar Isago. And now that takes me to the next question. Let's walk.
There's a guy who comes to collect, he's doing glass, he's doing kitchen. Cabinet tops.
So this is the end here. Yeah, but I mean, but from here, there's really nothing new to see, right? So that from the time to here. Because I want to structure this as a story, somebody can see it and then start coming to really see what you're doing here. In my new life, I will be a journalist.
I can see. More than a journalist. Very outstanding.
So as you can see even here, it is just the same as that. So what we do is after finishing.
So what do you do with this bottle cover?
This one, what happens is after everything is done.
Yes.
This one we now collect
for
them,
beautification.
use it, get a magnet. There's a magnet machine we have. We pick them up, then we compact them, and then send them to the steel company.
Excellent, excellent. Now is the big part.
Right, so
the question I want to ask you,
you'll be able to collect the magnetic machine.
I want to ask you this question now. There are so many youth with that job. Not only in Botswana, but across Africa, Kenya, Cameroon, Nigeria. Waste is not seen through the lens of wealth. But what I've seen here that you are doing in this amazing, you call it Somarila Tikolo Bottle Waste Recycling Center. Yes, if you're watching, that's the name. Tongue twisting a little bit, but it's okay. So my question is this. For those young people who don't know that there is wealth in recycling bottles, and there is a climate change entrepreneurship center that has just been opened in Baisago. You can see the young amazing ladies and gentlemen here. They are environmental ecologists. So my question to you is, if you were to give advice on how this your work that you are doing can help students to create jobs by coming, learning here and also taking the knowledge back to that, what would you say to both the president of the university and to the minister of environment?
I think
directly to the camera.
There's a lot of glass potential not expected in Botswana. There's also what you call glass melting to make artifacts, which has not been being done in Botswana. So we need to train people. That's why university should have that course of glass smelting and designing various vessels. It's containers.
So from what you are saying, is Baisago should venture into that, and they can work with you to get that process. Excellent. One.
Two. Number two, we are saying that the value chain in glass recycling is so much. By virtue
value chain
of collection. You see, Botswana doesn't have a glass making. There's one which was supposed to be in Palatu, but it didn't take off. So by virtue to have this glass, it portrays in itself that the demand for glass products is high in Botswana. This is West glass. So now it pushes us to look at why do we still send all the raw material to South Africa, because this is exporting jobs.
Absolutely. And importing unemployment.
Yes. So why, and all the other raw material from Botswana goes to South Africa. Then we buy bottles from South Africa. Why can't we enjoy the economies of scale, mass production? That if you can't so use this for them to manufacture there, they come to queue to buy from here. So that's why I'm pushing the next phase that if you have all these bottles, why can't we convert them into these bottles locally and be able to create employment locally? And then number three, we are also looking at, as I've said, using glass in construction. Correct. It's also in water filtration. It's also in filtration properties, purification of water. So you have all those, even in landscaping. I wanted by Saho to also come and take glass, pulverize it into flower-like, and use it for landscaping. you'll see the amazing design that comes out of it. So we want to make sure that the university, because it has ability to do research and demonstrations, they should be able to practice all of this and see to it that people understand, because most of the time, if you tell a person, do recycling, and they don't see on large scale what this plastic becomes a t-shirt or a bag.
So what will it take to make this happen at scale across the country? You're talking to the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Youth, Employment, Minister of Environment, Minister of Finance, and His Excellency the President.
Minister of Education.
We have gone through this process before, and what we have always said is first, put up policies. What I've always said is
policy exactly will be one that should
a
target
policy
this kind
that
of thing?
first of all dictates segregation of waste, either at household or institutional level.
You see?
It should be mandatory. Segregate waste first. After segregation, provide avenues. If it's tires, provide a disintegrated landfill where tires are taken. If it's plastic, this is where you can take your plastic. If it is wood, because sometimes when you say garden waste is garden waste, there's no garden waste, that is compost.
Just stop there. Now, government have a role to play. What of a common person like me and you?
Now,
what should we do?
For you, first of all, you need to have two sides of the story. You become an investor in that industry.
Are you guys hearing? You as the individual, you
Because-
become an investor, not a complainer, okay? Let's
If you
continue.
look at it, for you to do a glass making factory, you need 500 million. And the government can subsidize and say you can provide 200 million.
Excellent.
Why can't
If you have a very clear
individual
plan.
say, okay, if you raise 1,000 each and become a shareholder in that industry, because you know the consumer of that product is already there, KBN is there.
It's more exciting.
So it's not like you're going to look for a market for the product. The market is there. It says we need the bottles as much as people are drinking. So if there's market, you're not going to look for market. And if you can saturate,
So what you are
satisfy
saying
the
is that
market-
this bottle can also be recycled to produce more bottles.
Yes.
And then the breweries now can pick it up there.
Yes. And
now, this is a very important point. To the breweries, these heavy private sector companies, what role should they play?
The breweries at the end of the day, first of all, they should be able to participate in offering good prices for the West. Most of the time, when you go to KBL, once people have drank the alcohol, they don't have an interest. So you have to have what you call manufacturer's responsibility. That don't declare your millions in your balance sheets and press conferences when your bottle is sitting somewhere uncollected. So by the time you talk about your millions, you make sure that bottle is not a site. So that's the manufacturer's responsibility.
So environmental, social governance, and corporate
Yes, has to be
responsibility.
there. So they have to know that, and it's upon them to make sure that all those bottles are collected safely and taken to a person who is going to take them to process number 2. Not fully %, but participate in that process, because you are still the consumer of the other product that comes out of the same waste. So they have to be able to be part and parcel of the whole system.
So do you think there should be a policy from government to obligate these big breweries to be able to buy bottles from local enterprises like your own?
That one in Botswana, there is no compromise. Botswana, once you provide the product, they block it from coming from outside.
Excellent. Good.
So that's the
that,
good thing about
those
the
of you who are
system of
watching
Botswana.
across the continent.
Yeah, once you say, I have bottles, they will be compelled, they give you a standard.
So the government actually creates an enabling environment and
Yes,
gives so. Then the last question before now I do a run up, which is, you said from bottles, which we see littered everywhere, they can be turned to bricks, they can be turned to bottles as well, recycling. The energy consumption is reduced. Environmental hazardous issues like either consuming broken bottles or causing harm to young people who play around, that is reduced. So now, if you are to take this at scale across the country tomorrow, what do you need now? Not tomorrow, what do you need now? What would you say you need now to make a difference?
What you just need at the moment, first, is facilities to store the bottles, segregated facilities where the bottles can be stored. What I keep saying is that...
But how can that happen? That is now what you need. But from your own perspective, what can happen that you can get that? Because my understanding is you are already doing something, you have limited space. And your only need is that you need that expanded. But what process does that take, and what are you suggesting should happen?
What we have been doing, what we are trying to experiment first, we have been putting up, in the first instance, we are putting up collection cages in all entertainment spaces. We have been working with the council to
and that's creating jobs also.
Repeal the bylaw that requires malls and entertainment spaces to have a closed cage, mixed waste environment. So you have to change it so that if you are running a bar, you will be having a cage where you segregate glass from other waste. Because it's also dangerous for those who come to remove the glass to go and throw it. Yes. So that's the first thing. So you have to make sure that.
And that can happen like tomorrow.
Yes. If you look at the current constitute less than 5% of the waste in the landfill, because you've been able to spread the
segregation at source is important, and that should be a policy and a law, and punish those who default. Now, by Sago University, how will you partner with them, and what do you see what you are doing, helping the university to move from theory to practice and vice versa?
As I've said, we've been trying to partner with the doctor here from a number of projects. We are still pursuing the same, because from our environmental standpoint, we believe academic institutions have a role to play in identifying gaps. And they say yesterday, identify a gap.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. You are a real climate entrepreneur.
Exploit that gap. I'm an accountant, not professional.
Wow. I just develop passion into this. Hey guys, you see, not what you study matters, okay?
So definitely what I believe is institutions like BISA, they can be able to partner with other institutions to do more research and see
on the gaps that you identify, right?
And coming in to fill up. You see, like sometimes when you come and see how we fill up these bags, it's so manual. How we transport them, we try to mechanize the whole system. And I keep saying, sometimes we have students from University of Duke who come here to work because we pay to do this bag. We pay 120 fuller, and this one takes, someone can do 3 bags in a day. So this one we pay 100 fuller.
Job.
So for them to fill that with 100 fuller, and guys can come here and do 10 bags in a day. To a point you have to stop them because you don't want to go beyond the tax bracket. So you tell you fish 4,000, go and rest for 2 weeks. So we get another group, we come back for 2 weeks.
So what you are saying, I'm seeing a policy implication as well, that there needs to be tax incentives for those who are engaged in recycling waste to alternatives, so that even if they were to work as
much as
they are exempted from that if they can prove it. Excellent, wonderful. So what's your last word and your name again, please?
So my name is Boniface Olubayo. I'm business manager. Olubayo.
Olubayo. Boniface Olubayo, CEO of
business manager.
Business manager. Yes, excellent. So what's your last word to everybody listening? The ministers across the continent are listening to you now. What message, your last word to tell them on this front?
For me, all I say is waste management should not be what they call waste management. It should be waste resource management. And I've been arguing with the Department of Waste Management. When you call yourself a Department of Waste Management and Pollution Control, we are talking about manning landfills. So by virtue of that name, it makes it so hard for people to get into the aspect of this work. By so saying, I want to make sure that the government declassifies, right now to transport this bag from here to South Africa, the truck requires what you call a waste carrier license. But you're telling them, why do I need a waste carrier license when I've already now put it as a resource? It's a raw material. You understand?
Yeah, true.
So that should be subsidized.
So it should be subsidized, and we should not be having those waste carrier licenses. Because what happened, previously we used to go to DBT. DBT is the last way toll gate.
So what is needed as a substitute for that? For the license?
We don't need, once you have collected your waste, if you're
is there a registry that at least you can see that what has been done has followed the standards. Do we have standards?
Yes, we have standards. Yeah, we have standards.
Okay.
Well, that was I was in another workshop by UNDP at youth something on Tuesday, and I was saying when you have someone collecting this, it's no longer waste. If it is thrown on the street, it's waste. Okay. If I pick it, it's a resource. So make it easier for me to do that business. But if you start telling me I've loaded my truck, it's at the border. No, that truck doesn't have a real license.
Do you think this is because there's no sensitization? And
I think there's no. All government institutions are working in silence. The Ministry of Environment is working on sport. The Department of Waste Management and the Department of Environmental Water, they are not working independently. And if you put together with the local government who are in charge of waste, they are not talking to each other to see how then do we make it possible, because we are in the process of, we are in the meeting that we are streamlining the Millennium Development, the NDP plan. And we are asking ourselves, you have the desire to increase recycling by 70%. What are the projects that you put in place to do that? Council, what have you done? Environment, what have you done? You realize when you reach that point, nobody is saying what they're doing. So you're saying, if you're doing it like this, what do you want to assist us to increase what you're doing?
So there's an opportunity here, and I think I will just deal on that to explain so somebody sees. So this is the way I see it, my own perspective. You know, sometimes when things are not working the way they're supposed to work, what you do is you show how they're supposed to work using what you have. Yes. So this is what you are doing.
Yes.
You are not in government. You are an enterprise.
An NGO.
Well, yeah, an NGO, that's fine. I mean, it's just nomenclature. It's an NGO that is recycling bottles. Yeah. You know the gaps.
Yes.
And you've already, you have products that have been produced. Yeah. So how about a training that brings both state and non-state actors and academia, led through the Climate Change and Entrepreneurship Center of Baisago by you, led and leading by you guys, to actually showcase practically, because to bring impact to scale, you mentioned project, that's what I want to say. You know, you do not necessarily need small projects to do this kind of work across the country. What you need is to leverage those who are already doing it to go to the next level, but within a common framework, and then incentivize more people so you can train more and they pick it up as a business on their own. And at that time, you will reach millions of people very quickly, and the government agenda is achieved. So the message is simple. Impact to scale needs to build on what works, and the gaps need to be closed, and incentives need to be provided to those who are doing it right, and there needs to be a common framework that is revised always to then fit in the gaps that are coming out. That was a very interesting discussion. Bottle recycling and a lot of opportunity. But you heard one thing, there is nothing like waste. There's only something called wealth, because waste is a resource. And if waste is a resource, then definitely everybody should leverage that resource to make money out of it. I'm Richard Munang, the Deputy Regional Director of UNEP, and this is Boniface, the manager of, how do you, that wonderful name again?
Simarilan Tikolo.
Simarilan Tikolo. And we are here with the crew of Baisago University Climate Change and Entrepreneurship Center, and with vibrant youth who are going to pick up on this. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Thank you. Your website, there's a lot more. Like recyclable materials.
We are going there. So I wanted to cut this one so that we go there.
Bottles and then also
we wanted to go to the US.
Come and do other things. That's why you've seen we put that.
So these are computers monitors?
Yes. So someone just came from nowhere and dumped them here without our knowledge. Because they think, because we recycle glass, but then they think
they think you recycle everything.
Yes.
So but what would you say? Because US, just like bottles, people drink every day. Now people have cell phones, they have computers, and this we are going to see more of this.
Yes.
From your lessons learned from recycling of bottles, what do you think can be done to reduce US? What is a big hazard to the environment?
For this, they are actually a danger to the environment. And what we have been trying to do is to liaise with the government. There was previously there was a company that started dealing with US, but it also stopped. So what people do is,
why did it stop? No incentives?
No incentives.
Okay.
And there's no
regulatory
there's no kind of system to process e-waste in Botswana.
But does Botswana have an e-waste policy?
It has.
Ah, okay.
But it's just a matter of collection, and then it has to be taken from here to South Africa.
Okay, so there's no value addition into it. So that's an opportunity.
Yeah. So now what happens is that for those companies who are taking this, they charge you per kilogram. So people will fear to take this waste to them. So they'll be throwing it anywhere they can get space. I think that's how this person saw an opportunity and just let it go and dump it. They will see what to do. Because if you go with this one even with the landfill, they will charge you a fee to take it to the landfill. So he just found them here and he said, okay, let's clean up this.
So in Botswana, are there more bottles produced or more US?
More bottles.
Because everybody
drinks. But
nearly everybody drinks.
US is also a lot. Because I remember when we did this last replacement of US, it's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of e-waste in Botswana. We also put up a small box at our place.
Yeah. And the danger is that a lot of people want to remove some of the minerals and chemicals.
Actually, they remove some gold components.
Yes, gold component, copper, chromium, and lithium, and all those sort of stuff.
And see, like this thing, they have mercury, I think. So if you hit it, bursts, so it explodes.
So it's hazardous?
Yes, in the environment.
Yes. So if you were to suggest how people can make money from US, do you have some idea?
Yeah, for me, I keep saying, if you look at this plastic, I don't know, this aspect of plastic. US.
That can be harvested and turned to plastic blocks.
Because what we're doing is, for the metal screens, this type, these are really specialized equipment. Threaders which can be able to deal with it fully. So,
and also body gears to wear before dealing with it because of the extension that you mentioned.
For me, I think there's still a big opportunity to get into e-waste management.
So if there are three things to be done at the country level here to get into this, what would you say?
First of all, let also still the government have a centralized collection of all e-waste. People are throwing these things in bushes. People are throwing them.
How about decentralization, where at the community, local levels?
At local level, every council, actually what should happen, every council should be having an e-waste collection facility.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Then there has to be a national collection center where it is.
Oh, the cascades of.
Yes, where the material is done. Because there's a lot of this, if you go all over the bushes, you find all these money.
So what role do you see the Biostago Center doing?
Biostago should look at, she will try to do a research on the amount of e-waste, liaise with the waste management, to see if they have records of how much e-waste has crossed the border. You find there's almost zero. But every day there's people throwing this stuff. Where is it going to? It's in the environment.
Yeah. Okay.
So as you just said, okay, let it be here because it's not being thrown everywhere else.
Glenn, this is beautiful. Man, you've done well, and so we have to go, right? Where can we see those blocks or bricks? Is it part?
I know Bura from Nigeria, if you understand, when it comes to these tongue twisting names, right? Yes, we'll come to you. Thank you very much. You are doing something, and thanks for your positivity. That's what the young people need. You come, you put in place what you are doing, and then you ask, how can I be able to use what I'm doing to bridge gaps? That's the attitude young people need. Please clap for her. Yes, that's the kind of attitude you need. And you will get support through that kind of attitude. Because Africa young people's issue is also attitude, an attitude of bravado and thinking they know all. Instead of trying to ask the question, sometimes they want to show off that you are wrong in everything you say. Nobody is ever wrong in everything he or she says. Just listen carefully, you pick something out of it. The way you don't understand, you ask for clarification, okay? That's how some of us grew up. Yeah, and we're using it today. We're making progress, and we're proud of it. So your question on indigenous food, and then on solar panel, excellent question, amazing. That's what this center is here to do. So if you see Botswana have 5,000 times solar potential as compared to its usage. What does that mean? It means the whole country can be electrified using solar off-grid. And what this center, climate change and entrepreneurship is to do is to showcase what incentives are needed and what benefits will the country get as a result of decentralizing solar mini grids to every community in the country. And another aspect is, Botswana can actually become the hub of what we call power pool to distribute solar power tapped electricity across the continent, and they will make billions. That's a beautiful discussion. And then it is up to you, youth, to look to it and say, oh, how can we create the enabling space to discuss these issues instead of talking? What is politics in the first place? You people, so you talk, if I ask you what is politics, you think it's to go vote somebody and put him and then argue. That's where we missed it. That's where we missed it. Politics is a conduit for things to be done. And things are not done. Politicians are not supposed to have all the ideas. It's you who is supposed to give the ideas. And what is policy? Policy is what can now be the enabling space for actions to happen. But a good policy is informed by a good action. So are you doing a little that can then inform good policy so that the political space can be used to create further incentives? We are not doing that. I can tell you that the reason why Africa is behind, the key to Africa's transformational development is in each and every one of our hands. If I took the microphone here and explained to you how worse the continent was without a solution, I will get a round of applause here. But anytime you take and speak truth, you get rebellious. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody is saying it's not true. But if I didn't grow up in the setting in which I grew up and I understand context and I know what suffering means and I know what you can do to change it, I will just go with the wrong narrative. But the thing is, the wrong narrative you get across. And now that goes now to the question of Bora. Thanks for that question, which is, before I go to that, the indigenous, you mentioned the indigenous, excellent. Dr. Chicho, if you can bring the cassava thing, let's discuss that a little bit. Yeah. You mentioned, that's another wrong narrative in the continent, right? Yeah. We have over 257 million people who go to bed hungry. Then we had the food prices that went up because of wheat importation. The prices went up because of the Ukraine-Russian war. I have not heard young people, and I stand corrected, across the continent discuss alternative foreign narratives. And then they come here and they're telling us ABCD. Look, guys, you need to understand cassava. This is just a cassava stem. This is a magic crop. That's one. It's Africa's gold. Africa's gold is not just the mineral from Tanzania. This is Africa's gold. Why do I say Africa's gold? This is just the stem of cassava. So the roots grow on the ground, and this can grow during drought and during floods. What did I say? It can grow during drought and during floods. And the latest science tells us that wheat is going to reduce globally by 36% because of climate change, but cassava will only be affected by 8%. So why are we not focusing on cassava? Number two, this crop, cassava, can produce 300 products: cassava bread, cassava chips, cassava flour, cassava beer, for those of you who drink, cassava cakes, etc. And even these leaves, you can use to feed your animals and even use it as vegetables. We don't discuss it. Number three is that you can start to substitute wheat with cassava and have a percentage of wheat and cassava in bread, and all you need is for government to provide the incentives for that to happen, and your National Standard Bureau to have standards that bakers and bakeries can start to use. These are the kind of ideas you need to bring to policy space to influence policy. But then the discussion is, we don't have food to eat. No, cannot grow cassava. No, who is he? He came and said it here. Guys, so this is an indigenous crop that needs to become not just a crop for Africa, but the opportunity. 500 million people across Africa. I know that Bora knows it because in Najagarina, I'm from Cameroon, so we chop up where I speak a little bit of Pidgin. With pride, part of our culture. So, thank you very much. And Dr. Chicho, when I came here in 2019, I mentioned this. What did she do? She exploited it, and she today is producing cassava, and she eats cassava. That's vision and that's leadership. It's not about taking the stage and complaining. And then, Bora, thank you very much. You asked, that is it. So if you ask me today, what is killing young people psychologically? And I will go what you exist to. And usefulness is not complaining, it's doing something. And because of that, we were not taught that it's okay to fail if you are trying to do the right thing. And that when you fail, learn and try to find alternatives. Because of that, our mindset was not built to withstand those kind of forces. So your question was, what can we do? What we can do is very simple and very straightforward. Number one is identify what you are passionate about and become so purposeful about it that you start to do it even if you don't have resources. Go online and start to research. Even if you don't have the bundles to go online, try to engage somebody who knows and try to find out. And start to deal with what you have, and you will fail in the process, and you will learn, and you will start to develop that resilience. That's number one. Number two is, you need to understand that you will not be successful and you will not have a job all the time. You can lose a job anytime. Psychologically prepared for that. And start to do what you believe that is really what you came to this earth to do. If it is singing so well that others can want to get inspired to understand, why do you always sing about cassava? Simply because of this. And then understand what cassava means and start to be part of. Join, ask Dr. Chicho, how are you doing it? How can I be part of that? I also want to grow it. How can I get these things? So much so, that's part of diversification, but diversification is actually a resilient mindset cultivator. These are simple things. But they'll never be understood because I'm not speaking from, he's not talking a big jargon, right? What is he trying to tell us here? Yeah, that's the kind of thing they talk. Then, the other part, to be resilient, you must diversify and develop different skills. You don't have a job tomorrow. You may be a blogger. You say you write. Please don't bother. When you write, people don't read. Keep writing. One day, 1,000 videos. Keep doing what you do. One day, just one of your articles will be picked up and you won't win a prize because of that. So don't relent if it is okay. 2, 3 people can read it and their life can change. Someone's life change as a result of your actions is a world to that person. And that person can influence another person. And that takes me to the last point, which I will go to Mr. Mado's point. One of the things that brings mental health in the continent today is because everything is legit. Yes, but at the end.
I'd like to pose a question to you regarding funding. You see, the startup capital to all this, all this climate change, programs and projects. The startup capital can be very challenging. And the point that somebody was making, just to reiterate on this point, I think it's high time, I think it's high time in Africa at UNEP, and because you come from UNEP, you come up with a fund. You fund for youth, fund on climate change. Just a fund for youth to access. Because like the gentleman was saying in the back, it's very not easy to access funding, even for climate change in Africa. If you go to all our banks in Africa, you produce a proposal, you tell them, can you fund me? I'm starting a climate change proposal, a climate change project. They'll look at you and think, are you okay upstairs? You know what I'm saying? So I think maybe it's high time to start if you look at the Green Climate Change Fund, for instance, the Green Climate Change Fund is looking at funding who? It's funding government, it's not funding youth, it's not funding women and girls who are struggling, and youth. So maybe some of these funds, like the Adaptation Fund, the Green Climate Change Fund.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Director of Ceremonies. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate Dr. Munang for his presentation. I really want to appreciate you, Doc, for sharing this information with us, opening our eyes, and impressing upon us that we are the solution to the challenges of Africa. Sometimes it takes somebody to come from another country to tell us what we are capable of, what we can do, that we have what it takes to change the narrative, that we have what it takes to change the challenges of this continent. The challenges of this continent cannot be resolved by somebody who was not born and brought up in this continent. You and I have the solution in our hands. We know this continent more than anybody else. We know this country like anybody else. The lady who just spoke from Kalahari, She knows the Kalahari environment more than anyone else in this room. And she is the solution to the people of Kalahari. So that is basically what Dr. Munang was communicating with us. Mine is not a question but a comment to let you know that information like this is what we need in our lives. Let's not just hold on to our qualification and say, I've done real estate, I've done law and paralegal studies, I've done commerce, I've done economics. That's what I want to work the remaining part of my life. If it doesn't